Mark, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you. It's been a long time
Yes,
since we've been wanting to do this, and
I
we're
know.
here in Houston on site at HPE with
Yeah,
our customer advisory board, and just take the time to welcome you and
thank you.
have a little bit of a chat.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Cliff.
So my first question for everyone is always the same thing, which
Okay.
is the who is.
Yeah.
So who is Mark McDonald?
Who is Mark MacDonald? So I always think of myself as a person, human first. Like, I'm a father of four, husband, son, brother, friend. And I think in everything that I do and decisions that I make, I always try to put that part of me first. I'm an engineer by degree, so um, I always think of myself as a problem solver. And in terms of like leadership style, I think of myself as a servant leader. Like I always think about how can I make impact, whether it's impact for my customers, impact for my people around me. Like when people ask me why I'm at Phenom, the answer is always because I wanted to make impact, right? I feel like I'm at a company where I can make a difference, make an impact, and change the world.
Tell me a little bit about your role. I mean, I obviously know about it. We've
Yeah,
worked together now for a number of years.
yeah,
I'm losing count of the years we've worked together. But for those that don't know, I mean, just give a little bit away. But you head our services. But
yep.
what do you really do every day?
What do I do every day? It's different every day. So I lead our services and our support teams globally across Phenom. So um, what I do, I mean, ultimately, we're trying to make our customers successful. And so that comes in launching the platform for those customers, accelerating their speed to value, and then supporting them, making sure that it's working, it's effective. They get the support that they need. They have an understanding of how, to utilize the platform and really trying to respond and make them successful.
Now, you're obviously both of us. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you're delivering a lot of applied AI solutions to clients, and that's been scaling over the last 12 to 18 months. Moving from more traditional core AI to generative now to applied, which is more agentic technology. In your world, just in the operation that you run, let's forget for a moment about delivering to clients.
Yeah.
How are you looking at artificial intelligence applied to your service and support organization?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of ways that we're looking at it. I think first of all, like we're very just like our customers, very human centric and high touch type of organizations, right? We're dealing with our customers, we're supporting them, in a lot of human to human interaction. So it's very easy at first to look at that journey and think, well, how in the world could we automate that or put AI into that journey? And so everything that we look at, we first try to separate, right, between what we think can be automated and what has to be human in the loop and augmented. And so we kind of try to take that first, and decompose it or separate it. And so that's kind of like initially and conceptually, we map out the whole journey. But I think also, I know that when we look at what's happening in the market, the challenges that we're under, in our industry, we also had to take on aggressive goals. Like one of the things that I looked at this year was customer effort, reducing customer effort by half, by 50%. Um, and so then when we started to look at that, I had to kind of first decompose that. What's causing customer effort or unnecessary customer effort? And you know, it's duration, it's the back and forth. It's also putting decisions on our customers, and then they have to make or do a lot of effort to get to those decisions. And so we kind of like looked at that first. We then started to gather a lot of data. So we have tons of data and gathered more from our customers about that. And then I think one of the things that I did just as a leader is I said, well, um, we have to make some bold moves, and I put some pretty aggressive goals on our team and said, okay, well, if we look at durations, right, um, in order to reduce the effort by half, I have to be putting goals on them. If, a discovery and an implementation might normally take 12 weeks. I'm going to our team and saying, okay, well, I want it in 2 weeks or less. Um, and
How does
often,
the team react to how aggressive some of these goals are? Like,
I mean, as you could expect, right?
yeah.
It's a lot of, freaking out and we can't do this. We'll never be able to do it. And then that's kind of the initial emotional reaction. And then the second phase is usually coming to me and say, okay, well, I need like 10 more headcounts. And I say, okay, well, we're not going to do that. But what we can do is look at the AI. And here are all different sources of AI that we can use across the company in different tools, in our own tool. And it was a bit of a journey across this year to start to embrace that. And I think a little bit of resistance at the beginning, but we're now getting to the point where, as I continue to give those types of goals, we're starting to think about AI as the first way to solve it, which is a huge progression for us.
It is. It makes me think of this question, which is how important is it for leaders like yourself, but in any leader, you could talk about, head of services, SVP of services, to CHRO, to, VP of talent, like all these roles that you and I interact, leaders that we interact with. How important is it for them to understand what technologies are available? So when you throw the gauntlet down and say, cut it from 12 weeks to 2,
Yeah.
and the team goes, holy cow, like,
Right.
you want me to do what?
You're right.
But you already have, first off, that's going to be the emotional reaction. It's going to be like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Right. And here come I need headcount, I need more budget, I need this, I need that. Right. How important is it for you to already have known, maybe not all, but some of the artificial intelligence tools that are available in the marketplace? So because this is a bit of it's almost like therapy sometimes. You have to let people object first.
Sure.
They have to go through that emotional journey of objecting. It's almost like grieving, right? They have to go through denial and finally to come to acceptance, get there quickly. Yeah. But do you already understand the framework by which where you want them to be, but you let them get there themselves? Like, how important is that as a leader to do and know that? Because we don't see that everywhere. We see leaders that lack the knowledge of what these technologies can do, and they're trying to discover it while challenging their teams, or they don't challenge them and they just like sit where they're sitting and watch the world bypass them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me about, from a leadership role, how important is this?
So it's super important. What I would say is that it's important to know what is available out there. I don't even know everything that is, and we're continuing to explore that. But you have to have that level of curiosity to continue to see what's out there, to continue to revisit it, to continue to learn and get up to speed on the new technologies. I think the other thing is just me as a problem solver. You have to be curious too about what's the root cause of why the problem is happening, right? And so like if I take the discovery example that I gave you, right, the 12 weeks into 2, like one of the things that I knew is, and I learned this also from the research, is that we're kind of asking questions of our customers in which we might have already known the answer upstream, whether it be from selling, or maybe if we put in some additional research, we could find those answers and then shape a recommendation to them. And so I think knowing that was the problem, and then starting to learn and explore the AI technologies that are out there, you start to naturally put those two together. And then I think, it's easy for me to say that I just kind of created the the target and then the challenge, but then you have to, as a leader, then help to guide your people on that problem solving journey.
And that is, and we were talking about this earlier, presenting small wins along the way then becomes really important, right? And good leaders can know the difference. And we talked about this earlier today. We had a very great client of ours, present some data on our voice agent that we released, and they're an early adopter. It's not, as of the recording of this podcast, is not yet available for general consumption, but the story was this client had turned on the voice agent on the first day. It had done 300 screens. So it's for screening, job screening. So it's asking the agents, calling someone, asking them some job screening questions, recording those answers and bringing the data back. It had done 300 of those and it broke.
Yeah. Right.
Right. The voice agent broke and so the client broke it. And then, when this particular client was giving this story, you could see some of the disappointment in some of our own clients listening to this story going, yeah, of course it broke. Like, well, that wasn't great.
Right.
And I'm sitting in the back of the room. And when you and I talked about this, my question was, hey, how many voice calls and screenings were humans able to do?
Yeah.
And the answer was 30.
Right.
They maxed out at 30. And so they did 10 times the number of screenings before the agent broke.
Yeah.
And then this client also came on and said, I called the Phenom product team. We got on the phone. We figured out what the problem was. It was fixed within 24 hours and we're back in business.
Right.
And it can scale beyond the 300 at that point. It's doing much more than that now, and there was a sense of resolve in her voice to say, it's great being an early adopter. I prepared my team. Things are going to break. That was fine. But look at the win we got. On day one, we had 10 times more. And that data was consistent across the board. So because it wasn't a human being asking questions, it was the agent, and it's very consistent in how it gets responses out. Yeah. It's also a natural conversation. So the acceptance rate for the candidate who's being called was very, very, I think it was like 90% or better, that they had a positive experience with the agent. So there's all these wins in there.
Yes.
And she went back to the team and back to her leadership and said, yeah, it broke. Of course it broke. We're early adopters.
Yeah.
How important is it for leaders to know how to tell that story and tell the narrative that's actually true versus the one thing we all want to gravitate towards, which is, of course it broke.
Yeah. Right. It's so critical, right? It's preparing for the journey, right? And we talk about it at Phenom a lot. And we're a very innovative company, and part of the innovation is that you will have mistakes. There will be those failures. The important thing is, how quickly are you learning from it? How quickly are you addressing it, reacting to it, and pivoting? And then I think also you definitely have to prepare your team. You have to prepare your leaders, your stakeholders, customers, for the fact that there will be some mistakes along the way. And as long as the progress, the results, the outcomes outweigh those bumps along the way, that's what's really important. But it's so critical, because if you don't go into that, we also talk a lot about growth mindset, right? And knowing that that's part of the growing process. So if you want to be innovative, you have to accept that that's part of it.
And isn't it true? It's not that things will break, because of course they will. Even in general availability product, things are going to break, right? But it's almost taking on the approach that it's supposed to break, right? Because these are new things. These are innovative things. This isn't, even some of the most common technologies that we use every day still break.
Right.
Right. And we talk about the example of, a banking app. I want to log in. I want to get my balance. I want to apply for a loan or something like that. In 365 days and 12 hours out of the year, it works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But you wake up one morning and it's broken. You can't check your bank balance and you think it's the end of the world. But what's your alternative, right? And this is the idea that we have to break things so that we can continue moving forward, because your alternative to that is, fine, we'll shut off the app, never use it again, and you got to take time off from work, march down to the bank, talk to a teller to get that answer.
Yeah.
Right. And gone is the day of scale and efficiency and speed and access to information. That's all gone. That's, so as human beings, we tend to make a mountain out of some of these molehills when it really is, this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Why do you think we're programmed to accept failure at the human level and criticize technology when it scales so big, but it has a minuscule, in terms of time, has a minuscule failure point? Like put on your engineering hat for a minute.
Yeah.
Think about engineering problems and like, why are we like that from a human being perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it was a customer that recently said, well, that they sometimes can look at those failures as a reflection on them. Right. And like, to engineer is to be human, right? We're always trying to continue to push the envelope. But I think we have to apply those same principles that we give in forgiveness to us as human beings, to the technology, right? It's ultimately it's designed by humans, and so it will continue to iterate. But I think that is, again, telling the story of the journey, and not just looking at the point in time and thinking that that's a complete failure. That's just a step in the journey.
So what are you, as you evolve your service and support organization, what are you telling clients? Like, what does that evolution look like for them? So your goal has a stated goal is to reduce customer effort.
Yep.
How does that actually happen?
Well, it's no one particular action or activity. So there's several things that we're doing across the board, right? So we're looking at how can we reduce duration of implementations, right? So significantly collapsing it. Like some of our projects can go 6, 9, 12 months, even longer if we phase it out, like compressing that significantly into weeks. Also looking at how we're optimizing on the support end, looking at reducing the back and forth that we have in tickets, looking at more agents for proactive monitoring that are self-healing, self-resolving, and then getting to the point where we're being more proactive with the support folks out to our customers and educating them.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because story you and I talked about, really great client that we have, and their support team came back to us and broke down our entire support process and started wanting to tweak it. Right. Mm-hmm. And good for them. Like, I love the effort. I love the empathy and trying to work with us and make things better. Why doesn't that work?
Well, because, first of all, as an organization, if we did that for every customer, we couldn't scale over the longer term. That's one piece of it. But I also think it's kind of focusing on the wrong things. Like, ultimately, I want and expect our customers to hold us accountable to the outcomes, to the inputs and the outputs. You and I were also talking about there could be a day in the not so distant future where agents are interacting with agents on support, right? And really then it's the humans that are interacting to consult with each other on how we optimize business outcomes instead of looking at how we're optimizing process. Also, the process on our end for how we do support is going to continue to iterate and improve over time. So whatever we map out today, in 6 months, it's going to be better.
It should be.
Yes.
Because you're going to break it.
That's right.
Right. At some point it's going to break, and you're going to say, okay, that's an opportunity to make a change. We found a failure point.
Exactly.
And sometimes, especially in service and support, it could take a while to figure out. I mean, some of them are obvious, and you kind of fix those right away, but other ones are very nuanced, and you won't know until you're in a situation that part of the process required something different. And so you can iterate. And that's where you think about AI, and you think about generative AI, and you think about agents, the ability to surface those problems far faster, even predict them in some sense. You can put a bunch of data in, and it can examine it and go, you're going to have a failure point here.
Yeah.
Right. And be able to point to that and go, okay, great. Now we're getting ahead of the problems. And instead of human beings trying to tweak the process, the AI, and this is where you term the self-healing.
That's right.
Right. It's able to figure out and automatically get ahead of that and heal itself, which is sort of an amazing way of looking at it. And that's how, and let me get your reaction to this, that's how leaders think.
Yeah.
Right. Leaders aren't in the weeds. They are thinking about not tweaking a process. How do we make the process self-healing so that human beings don't have to tweak a process and they can actually focus on business outcomes?
Yeah.
Would that be true?
Yeah, I do think so. And if I look at it, I'd probably tweak what you said a little bit. 95% of what goes through our support system goes through flawlessly. 5% falls into the category that you're talking about.
Right.
So as a leader, I sometimes have to get into the weeds of that 5%, but then we're looking at it, we're correcting it, and then we're getting it to the point of we can automate that for the future. And because we're innovative, there's always going to be a new 5% that we're doing that with.
As there should be.
Yes.
That's the part we're breaking.
Correct.
95% is running just fine.
Right.
We know we're going to break 5%.
Yeah.
Right. We intentionally do that. You said something here that I want to sort of end on note, which is like predicting, right? So how are we innovating? How are roles going to change in service and support with the use and the, I'll call it the engagement or even employment of agents in the future? Like, how do you see roles transforming?
Yeah. Great question. I think what I would say is, first of all, like if I look at my teams, like what they're doing today, especially the customer facing roles, like project manager, or some of, solution architects, like what they're doing today is some amount of some task orchestration with our teams and back end teams in order to deliver for our customers. As we collapse that more and we automate that more, then more of what they're going to do is take all of the experience that they have with our customers and managing those engagements, and taking the lessons learned and pivoting those into consulting, advising, and helping our customers have better outcomes ultimately. And they're in a great position to do that. And I think our customers are going to be in that position too, right? They have folks that have, as they automate and optimize, they'll have people that have great core foundational skills, and they'll be able to apply that to the roles and jobs of the future.
And does that mean, so you and I talk about this a lot,
Yeah.
like project managers becoming more business enablement.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the official title, but certainly not project management anymore. You're not managing a project, you're managing business outcomes, and you're enabling technologies to be able to drive those business outcomes. It's a very, very different role.
Yeah.
But some of the skills are
They're completely
they're built in,
transferable.
completely
Yes.
transferable. So when people talk about AI's taking your job, what's your talk track on that? How do you respond to that?
I mean, the first thing that I say is that if you're an infinite learner, and you're constantly looking at learning and adapting the how, the skills that you have will transfer, right? I truly believe that, right? Because even, we've talked about this, what we were doing a year ago, 2 years ago, today it's totally different, right? And so we're in this constant evolution as human beings and as professionals, and I don't see it as you stated, that it's taking your job, right? Well, what did they say? Microsoft Excel was going to eliminate accountants, right? And right now plenty
of accountants.
Yes, plenty of accountants, right? My son is going to Lehigh for finance and accounting, right? I don't see it that way. I really think it's more about, can you take the knowledge and the skills and can you apply that to a new paradigm of how you accomplish the outcomes?
So the outcomes are going to drive what work really looks like.
Yes.
Versus what you and I have been talking about, which sort of the industrial age defined the job,
right,
and that defines the outcome. It's actually reversing now.
Yes. We were talking about, like, a lot of, like, in companies, governance structures might typically be built from, like, the technology upwards, right? Like, whatever the underlying core technology is, here's how we do it. These are the tasks. But really, it's more about use case down, top down, right? So,
no. Mark, this has been a really good conversation. I
Awesome.
appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Cliff.
Thanks.